What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're back with League Racing. We are actually going to combine the SRL and AOR races once again. I think both are fairly good races, but I felt like this week it was probably more appropriate to combine the two into one video. So we're going to start off with SRL, the Austrian Grand Prix. Championship-wise, things are looking really close. I think the gap between myself and Ryan is like 11 points, something like that. And Warden is not too far behind either, so there's literally a three-way battle going on for the championship right now, and on the SRL side, that really excites me. But yeah, here we are for the SRL Austrian Grand Prix. You can see in this first lap, you would have noticed, if you're looking at the bottom right, I was running in only rich reps, and that was because myself, and also Warden and Ryan, we were all intentionally sandbagging because it is raining for the race. Just like in Canada last week, we're set to get some rain maybe halfway through the Grand Prix, and I just thought it's probably better to start on the middle compound of tyre, the super soft tyre, not only to get us further into the race, but if it's going to start raining, it's going to mean that these tyres are more competitive in you know, low temperature track conditions, intermediate conditions, a dry to wet track, essentially, and it just gives us more flexibility in the race. So that's what we're going to try and do. So pushing very hard on this lap here. I think we filled the car up for 2 laps, I believe, and we're going to see what we can do. So max fuel mixture is engaged. For some reason my delta isn't working. I'm not getting a running delta of what's happening right around the track. But you can see we're up by a 10.5 as we went through the middle sector. Now coming to the penultimate corner, 6th gear. You can probably get away with 7th on the ultra soft tyres. Through the final corner, a little bit of understeer through there. Probably didn't hit the apex ideally, but we improved by 3.5 tenths to do a 1 minute 6.4. Pretty competitive time. If you can get in the 5s, that's a really good time, especially on the super soft tyres. That is a phenomenal time, but I don't know, we'll see if we can get close to that. We're up by 0.02 of a second on our second lap on the super soft tyres. There's a slow car as we approach the penultimate corner, and he's just sitting on the apex of the racing line and completely ruined our lap. Game over. P6. I think it was Roscoe who was going through there. He paused and retired, and his car was ghosting, but on my screen it didn't look like he was ghosting. I was a bit worried about running into the back of him, and that was our session over. Warden sets a 6 flat. We wouldn't have beaten that, but I feel like if we would have improved, like got a better run through the final 2 corners, which I think we were going to do if we would have hooked it up, I think we would have been maybe second row or maybe even front row. I'm not too sure. It would have been a little bit higher up the grid, and that definitely would have made things easier for the race. Now here we are for the Grand Prix. Ryan is qualified quite low down in the order. I think he's like 1 or 2 places behind me. But Warden out front on the middle compound tyre, the super softs, and is basically going to have a clear run in this Grand Prix. It's going to be near on impossible to beat him in this one. He's going to have clear air. He's going to skip away, and that'll be that. But it's going to be almost a case of damage limitation for us. You can see I'm adjusting the setup because the rain is set to strike. I think heavy rain it said at some point. So we'll have to watch out for that. But yeah, just going to be a case of getting to second place, getting through the traffic unscathed, and coming away with at least second place in this Grand Prix. Ryan is going to be hard charging through the field as well, a few places behind me, so it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. 5 red lights for the Austrian Grand Prix, and we are underway in SRL. It looks like Ryan has got a really nice start versus those around him. He's going to the inside as we head into turn 1. A few cars diving around the outside there, and someone actually dives it right up the inside of Ryan there. Gives him a bit of front wing damage. He's got a yellow front wing now, and that is absolute travesty for the start of his Grand Prix. He didn't even get a time in on his super soft tyre, so he's down in 10th place with his sandbagged qualifying time and on the wrong compound tyre as well. So Ryan's race is really not going to plan here as he goes actually around the outside of a lot of cars. He got a terrible run out of turn 2. I got tagged by someone as well through that run, and I think we all got slowed up, and now it's... Oh no! Toucan. Complete understeer, going in too hot into turn 4, I think it was, and Ryan's got more damage I believe he'll be coming into the pits at the end of this lap to change that. Horrible situation for Ryan. His pace would be nowhere if he stayed out. He's going to possibly go onto the supers, maybe even the soft compound tyres to run until the rain period. But man, what a disaster race Ryan is having at this stage. This is going to have huge championship implications if you can't get back through the order. Soft compound tyres are going on, change your front wing, and Ryan will be absolutely furious at this point. 9.1 second pit stop as well. That's not the greatest stop in the world, but for us, we got a clean getaway into P5. We've got a few cars in front of us now who are on the ultra soft tyres. That is a 3-second time penalty for us, so not even for us, not a great start to the Grand Prix. But like I was going to say, we've got a few cars in front of us on the ultra soft tyres. Their tyres will start to go off in the next few laps, and as the rain starts to set in, as this Grand Prix unfolds, we'll become even more competitive. I think the rain is actually like 5-10 minutes away, the engineer was saying, and that might prove tricky for the ultra soft runners, whether they make a pit stop before the rain hits. We got the inside of that Matt there into turn 2. He actually saw me coming, but maybe got spooked. I think he eased off the steering and just left me space, but left too much space and ran wide and gave up the position completely. So that was a really fortuitous moment for us there, moving up into P4, and now the rain is already setting in. So like I was going to say, awkward scenes now as to whether these guys stretch it out on their ultra soft tyres to make it to the end, or do they pit in earlier for a set of intermediate tyres like Ryan and Warden and a few others did last week in Canada. It's a really tricky situation, and now this is where myself and Warden are really going to extend the advantage over the rest of the field, and possibly Ryan as well on the soft compound tyres. Although being fairly low down in the order, he could still get some advantage out of this too. But we're cutting on to lap 10 now. Jared is really starting to lose pace now with his ultra soft tyres. They're really starting to go off, and they're not going to be working as well in these conditions as what my tyres were. I saw he had a massive moment going through the final corner, and I said to Ryan in the game chat, he's going to crash here. And then next thing you know, next corner, like literally 5 seconds later, he actually spins and crashes himself. So, a bit of a guru moment there for me there. Jared was saying after the race, he saw me get up into P3, I think it was, and then he said, I'm going full sender mode, I'm going to YOLO it, I'm going to go for it, and that was the result. So, I think probably the wrong decision in the end there for Jared. He really needed to actually go the other way and go conservative and look after his rear tyres, because the conditions were only getting worse. But yeah, the rain set in. It was time for intermediate tyres. I think everyone, even on the ultra soft tyres, those guys were all able to make it until the rain period, although losing a lot of time trying to stretch it. But they should be fine till the end. But you know, for me, it was a bit of a formality once I got into P2. I was faster than everyone behind me pretty much. Warden was pretty much untouchable. He already had like an 8-9 second lead by the time I got into P2. I tried chasing him down, but his pace was just really good. And then we got to a phase in the Grand Prix around like lap 25 where it started to get heavy rain, and we saw about half of the field dive into the pits for a set of wet tyres. Myself, Warden, and Ryan decided not to do that. We felt like it was probably going to be faster to stay out on the intermediate tyres. It was only going to be a short spell on the wet tyres, so we thought it's probably not worth the risk. If you guys remember, I think SRL Singapore last year, I made the mistake of diving into the pits for wets in these conditions, and I ended up losing like 2 pit stops, and it wasn't really worth it in the end. This is Zombie Hunter going up the inside of DJR Penske into turn 2. These guys are a lap down here, and I do not like this situation at all. But it's already going back to intermediate tyres now, and the wet tyre guys are actually starting to lose time as we get caught up behind our teammate. He was actually trying to let me go through there. I got caught out by him braking early, tried to slam on the brakes, and that ended up in sending me into the gravel trap there and losing quite a lot of time before Zombie Hunter asked a little bit too much of his wet tyres and spins out there. So majority of the field now are on wet tyres, and they're now starting to feel the pain of those wet tyres on an intermediate track and pushing way too hard, and now starting to, you know, feel the consequences of that. That's Roscoe overshooting turn 2. DJR gets up into P10, the final points paying position, before letting me go through on the last lap of the Grand Prix, where Warden will win the race quite comfortably there, especially after my mistake. I think he's going to win by like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. But great drive from him. For me today, I just wasn't able to keep up. It's just one of those things where the rain, you know, favors the pad users a little bit. The pad is a little bit, you know, naturally faster in these conditions. But, you know, taking nothing away from Warden, he was exceptionally fast today. And deserves the win thoroughly. Ryan managed to get up into P3 after all that overtaking. He managed to gain a lot of time out of everyone diving in for wets, but he stayed out on his intermediate tyres like I did and managed to get back P3 in the end there. So yeah, we gained 3 points on Ryan in the championship. So I think the gap is something like 9 points. I'll have the championship standings up on screen right now. So Ryan still leads. I'm P2. I believe Warden is still P3, but I may be wrong. But overall, things are still looking very, very tight in the top of the championship in SRL. But that's Austria. Time now for AOR for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Okay, so here we are, just like that, in a flash. Off to the next race a few days later. This is the Hungarian Grand Prix here for AOR. You can see we've already done one run so far at the start of this session. I think it got me like P3 on the grid, half a second away from, I think, Ryan, who is on provisional pole. At the moment, we are going out again for another run. Again, we have rain for this race, but this time the rain is actually going to start right from the outset. So there's nothing we can really do strategy-wise. We're going to go pretty much all guns blazing in terms of our qualifying, runs on the super soft tyres. I can't remember if we were running with a wet setup. I don't believe we were, because we're running like, for me personally, 511 wings. And in terms of a wet setup, I honestly don't think there's all too much you can change anyway. That's fairly similar to wings to what you'd run in the wet anyway, with the exception of maybe 11 ballots. But I believe I left it full dry setup for the race. I just want to track position for this one. So here we go for a qualifying run here for the second run of qualifying. Unfortunately, I fueled up the car for 2 laps. I was cutting it fine in terms of getting the car out there to get a 2-lap run in, but unfortunately, I was just held in the pits for like 15 seconds, and that didn't leave me enough time to do 2 runs. So we're only doing the 1 run with the extra fuel on board, unfortunately. Going through the middle sector now, the middle sector chicane, 4th gear through there. Traction is always horrible through there. We lost the back end slightly, but it was nothing really, it didn't cost us too much. But going through the fast right-hander now to the second sector split, you can see we're up by 2.5 tenths on our previous best. It hasn't been the best lap. I managed to muck up, I think, turns 2 and 3, and that cost me a bit of time in the first sector. But otherwise, it looks like we're going to improve by 3, maybe 4 tenths, and that'll put us in the 16s. Pole time last season was a 16.8 that I did this time last year. But as we come across the line, it looks like it's only going to be a 17 flat, and it is second place on the grid as New Zealand Ryan improves to do a 1:16.7. So, I mean, overall, I feel like the times are actually pretty slow from us this week. Me personally, I didn't practice that much. Only practiced like an hour before the lobby started, so a little bit lazy from me there. Ryan, nonetheless, still put in a really good time. Warden got trapped in P5 on a 17.3, so he'll be very unhappy with that. Second of the 2 Ferraris there, and has a lot of work to do in traffic, much like myself and Ryan had to do earlier on in this video for Austria, so it's going to be a mirror image to see what happens there. But in terms of this race strategy, wet conditions. However, it is set to dry up fairly quickly, going to light rain and then dry for the second half of the race. Flicking around between the strategy, it actually says if we go to intermediate tyres from the start, we'll knock off 20 seconds off our race time. And as you can see here, I'm umming and ahhing about whether to go for safety on the wets or go aggressive on the intermediate tyres and get the gain later on. I decided right at the last second to go for the intermediate tyres and see how we go. Warden and Master Berserk have gone for the same strategy as I am, but Ryan has gone for the wets. Away we go for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Looks like a shocking start on these tyres. I lost the back end in 3rd gear. And I've got front wing damage as we head into turn 1. You can see as we head through this corner, we've been dive bombed by the Sauber of Greek Master. giving us more front wing damage, and we're down to P4 off the start line. So, not a great start. I just got random wheel spin out of nowhere. I was really delicate on the throttle, but then I thought the start phase was over. Then I just got this big burst of wheel spin, and that was it. So, what can you say? Like, it's not the end of the world, but you know, we've lost a chunk of our front wing on the right and a little bit of front wing damage on the left as well, even though I won't say that. So yeah, frustrating start to this race, because I really feel like this race strategy can come in clutch for us later on in the Grand Prix. Warden and Master Berserker are really well placed now to put pressure on Ryan. Although Ryan is absolutely flying at the moment, he's got like a 5-second lead and is much quicker than everyone else in the field. He may have to do another stop, an extra stop versus myself, Warden, and Master Berserk. We've got Jetson going up our inside into turn 1. With the front wing damage, with the wets being faster at the current stage, I didn't want to hold up Jetson. I didn't want to get involved in any battling. So I just let him go on the start finish straight. Now Jared is all over the back of us on the wet tyres. He goes for a dive. Half takes us out, losing time. That's not what I want. It's not what he wants either. Jared getting very, very impatient. He literally only just caught up to me and was diving me already into a corner where really the move wasn't really on. But now, turn 1, that's definitely an overtaking zone. We leave space on the inside for Jared. We're going to see if we can hold it around the outside. Bit of rubbing, but that's fine as we run through to turn 2. We got actually a really nice exit there off of turn 1, and that put us in a good position heading into turn 2. We've overshot the corner. Jared is going to get us back on the switchback here, and he may possibly get the position. We leave him space on the outside, but he runs wide, and that is us maintaining P5 as him and Pom to the win, battling away for P6. But just after that little squabble on lap 4, I think that was the turning point in terms of the conditions. It was almost like a light switch. The favour really started to turn in the way of the intermediate tyres, and you can see we just started pumping in personal bests for the subsequent laps. Jared pitted in, Pom's pitted in, Jetson was in. Literally everyone in the field who was on intermediate, on wet tyres, dived it in, and that left myself, Warden, and Master Berserk to lead the way on intermediate tyres. But Ryan had a huge lead, and it meant that he rejoined fairly close to me after his pit stop. He's got like 7 or 8 lap fresher intermediate tyres, and he's got a full front wing on his car, and he's going to be so much faster than me. So I thought, you know, it's not practical to just hold him up here. So we're going to let him go here as we head into turn 2, brake early, give him the inside, and we'll leave him to chase down the 2 Ferraris. So there's probably a lot of people thinking, oh, why'd you let Ryan go through, your championship rivals? I mean, we are teammates, and we have a lot of respect for each other. You know, especially in a scenario like this where I've got damage, there's no point in holding up my teammate when he's going to inevitably get me anyway. So I think it makes sense for both parties to just avoid the battle and carry on and do the best race you can. But lap 16 rolls around. Master Berserk has dived it in for a set of soft compound tyres. He's actually dived in a little too early. DRS hasn't been enabled yet, and I feel like it's just a few laps away before the dries are the tyre to be on, and Master Berserk, who was actually the effective race leader, might have potentially thrown away the race victory by diving in too early. He lost like 10 seconds by changing on a few laps early. Lap 19 rolls around, and here we are diving onto the soft compound tyres. I got the alternate strategy suggestion from Jeff, and I was like, yep, this is the moment. We're going on to dry tyres. We're going to go onto the softs and stretch it to the end of the race. DRS gets enabled right as we come in as well, so absolutely perfect timing when it comes to changing the strategy. We're going to change the front wing as well. I'm doing the New Zealand Ryan tactic of spamming the clutch button to get a faster pit stop. I don't really know if that really gained me anything, but we'll see later on. But as we rejoin, you'll see Jetson, who was literally in the slow lane. I was in the fast lane, and I was actually in front of him even after he was released into my car. The game screws me over, gives him the track position, and now I have to overtake him to get back into P4 in this race. So a lot of work to do. You can see I'm corner cutting here. I've got a new front wing. I've got much more downforce now. I've got dry tyres on, and the grip is phenomenal. will I say. It was amazing how much fun grip I had after that moment. The car was an absolute boat in the first like 20 laps of this Grand Prix, but as soon as I got that pit stop out of the way, got the new tyres on, I had so much grip to the point where I kept cutting corners. I couldn't avoid it. Like, it just kept turning in too early. Car kept on biting, and yeah, it was a problem. It was a huge problem for the first few laps. I think I got myself like 2 penalties and a couple of warnings as well. So we got 6 seconds worth of penalties. But you can see we're setting fastest laps now. The pace was there. The pace was always there in the dry. Didn't hook up a good qualifying lap. We've left ourselves too much work to do for the second half of the race, and it's just a case of what could have been. Because when I was practicing with Ryan, we had the exact same pace. I beat him in the practice race. Then the rain hit, and you guys saw what happened. So yeah, what can I say? The second half of the race was really fun though. I think for all of us, we all had phenomenal grip. We were pushing like crazy every single lap. I was lapping much faster than Jetson and Master Berserker, and everyone around me. Pretty much matching it with Warden and Ryan for race pace. We were exchanging fastest laps throughout the entirety of the Grand Prix. But I was just too far behind, and yeah, left myself too much work to do. It's the last lap of the Grand Prix. I'm putting Master Berserk under pressure. He had like a few penalties himself, but he didn't know about the penalties that I had, so he was crapping himself a little bit there. Warden wins the Grand Prix with that intermediate strategy that we tried to work. Didn't quite work in our favour. Just the front wing damage, losing all the time in the wet conditions with the damage, trying to carry that on. But the pace was there. The pace was always there in the dry. We just screwed ourselves over by, I don't know, maybe being too greedy on the first lap in terms of the traction. So Warden wins the Grand Prix. Ryan comes home in second. Master Berserk, what could have been for him as well. He really threw that one away. He was in front of Warden for the first half of the race, then dived it in too early, misjudged when the right time was to go onto the dries, and he ends up losing out by 17 seconds. It's a cruel game, league racing. It's so easy to drop the ball sometimes. You have to get absolutely everything perfect to be within a chance of winning a Grand Prix. But Master Berserk just falling short there. So, yeah. Pretty good race in the end there. I really had fun with that, like I said. The conditions really promoted us to push every single lap. Didn't have to worry about tyre wear. Didn't have to worry about any pressure from behind. And it was just qualifying lap after qualifying lap. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I think driver's standings, we've dropped back down to P4. Master Berserk is now in front of us by like a point or two. So, bit of a battle going on there. Hopefully we can get back on the podium next week, and we'll see what happens. Until then, I'll see you next time.